Rick Miracle reporting. Video number 17. Book review. Plagues. Psychic control. Biological weapons. What the heck is our government up to? So I thought I'd review a few books to kind of give you a tidbit of what they can do, what they have researched, what they have spent our money on. I review, tell you, and you decide. Thank you for watching my videos. Well, welcome back. Rick Miracle here. It's Thursday, November 7th, 2013, about 1 o'clock. And today I want to go over an interesting book. Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola by Leonard Horowitz. I read this book a couple years ago, as you can see how thick it is. So before I start in telling you about this book, Leonard Horowitz was a doctor, high-level dentist, and an official with the Department of Health. And he ran across some truths and some information that you should be made aware of. But I guess a point I'd like to also make is, how long does it take, you think, to read a book like this? 500 and something pages. 2 weeks? I mean, it's a technical book. We're not talking a novel. And you have to be a technical person sometimes, but I think the average person can get a lot of it. Well, let's just say it takes 2 weeks. So 52 weeks in a year. Let's say you take 2 weeks off and you don't focus on read. So that's 50 weeks in a year, and 2 weeks per book is 25 books. And I know I've read over 100 books. So that's 4 years of focused work. Of course, I did it over 10 years, and I think it's about 150 books, plus the magazines, plus the thousands of videos, and thousands of press releases and all the other activities. So I'm saying there's a lot of work here. And why I'm making these videos is there's just no way I would expect anybody to do what I did. And we're running out of time. You don't have time to do what I did. You don't have 10 years to spare, in my opinion. This New World Order, it's the health care bill that Obama and the government's trying to push on us, the battleships and aircraft carriers parked off of Iran and Syria, the military in the USA and the police departments and the national security, TSA, NSA, CIA, FBI, Social Security, IRS, everybody and anybody buying bullets, buying tanks and weapons, crowd control microwave transmitters that can microwave people. Who knows what's in space? 9/11, Oklahoma City bombing, Batman shooting, Sandy Hook, Boston bombing, and the ongoing chaos in Syria and the Middle East and Israel threatening Iran. It's just going on and on and on. And I believe all of this is connected. So I want to read a little bit about from Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola. And I'll let you decide. That's what it's all about. First, I thought I'd read a few references of people who wrote references about Leonard's book. Thoroughly researched, Horowitz vividly portrays the inept, dishonest, and secretive science found in our country's national laboratories and in international organizations such as the World Health Organization. I suggest you read this brilliantly synchronized volume, Ed Germain, book review, Sonoma County Bay Press. I think that's Sonoma County, California. Next one here is Dr. Horowitz courageously exposes the inner workings of the military medical industrial complex. The people, their mindset. The book provides an unsettling truth, yet sets us free by releasing us from the tyranny. Amen. This was Dr. Vid, MD, Director, San Francisco Medical Research Foundation. One more. There's a lot of them here. The most massive, well-documented assembly of evidence ever published in support of the idea that the AIDS virus could have been manufactured as a biological weapon and then accidentally or purposely released into the world. If you scoff at the notion, you won't be so cocky once you see how much evidence exists. I recommend it most highly. You'll never think of AIDS the same way again. Russ Kick, Review in Outposts 2, Catalog and Rare and Disturbing Alternate Information. That's a magazine, I suppose. So anyways, he's got another page of reviews. Emerging Viruses, AIDS and Ebola. I read this entire book. All the books, most of the stuff I show you. It took me weeks to read this book. So there's no doubt in my mind, and as an electronic engineering technician and amateur studying physics and biology and just a person who's always been sort of a scientist his entire life, me, and I'm 58 now, years of age. All right, here we go. To do evil, a human being must first of all believe that what he's doing is good. To do evil, a human being must first of all believe that what he's doing is good. That first sentence. How many people have I talked to about my concerns on all these subjects I'm talking about, who told me, yes, Rick, there's too many people on the planet. A lot of people need to die. It's all mind control. Jump in your car from Ocala, Florida, and drive to Nashville, Tennessee. On your left and your right for hundreds of miles in all directions is going to be vacant land. Leave the beach in North Carolina and drive to Santa Fe, New Mexico. I did it twice last year. Hundreds of miles on your left and your right for the whole 2,000-mile trip is vacant land, minus the cities that you enter into, like Oklahoma City. It's all rural, but then you hit the city, you drive through the city, and it's all rural for 200 or 300 miles. And the whole circumference of the city. Roswell, New Mexico, when I drove there last year, where they had the UFO alien thing, that was amazing. It's so rural, so remote to get to Roswell. 100 miles, 200 miles of just mountains and terrain and desert and forest. And you get to this city in the middle of nowhere, a small city. They have all the alien statues and alien credit union and alien restaurant. And it's quite amusing. But my point is, hardly is this world overpopulated. And even if somebody were to convince me there were a lot too many people, well, half those people are in the United States. The population is all because of the baby boomers. Back after World War II, parents had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kids. There was a population explosion. Well, if you come to 2013, starting around 2008, those people reached retirement age. The United States alone is going to lose about 100 million people just to old age deaths. And this is happening in lots of countries in the world after World War II. That's why they're allowing the people from Mexico and South America and India and all over the world immigrate to the United States, and it's such a big issue. The government is lying to you. They need those people here. They know that 1/3 of the USA population is about to expire. Things they don't tell you. All right, here we go. Ideology. That is what gives devil doing its long-sought justification, and gives the evildoer the necessity, steadfastness, and determination. Ideology. That's what gives the devil doer its long-sought justification, and gives the evildoer the necessary steadfastness and determination. What is that ideology? I'm here to tell you from our review in the series, Masonry and Satanism, is it's a Luciferian concept that, biblically speaking, that Lucifer, Satan, who was cast out of heaven, jealous of humanity, wants to destroy humanity, and that is his aim. He wants chaos. He wants the opposite of the Ten Commandments. This is a scientific point of view. I'm not trying to push religion on you. I'm telling you, there was God's creation, a world of order, and then there was Satan's desire for a world of disorder. The plus and the minus, the up and the down. This is the social theory which helps to make his acts seem good instead of bad. This is the evildoer. In his own and others' eyes, so that he won't hear reproaches and curses, but will receive praise and honors. Russian dissident Alexander Solzhenitsyn. So he's saying there's an ideology that these people have that allows them to mentally do what they're doing. Most people can't just do evil and walk around and live with it. They have a conscience. And I was mentioning this to a friend of mine the other day with regard to Abraham Lincoln and Kennedy. They came up through the filter of the Masonic Lodge system in the United States. And as president, their egos got the best of them, thank God. And they tried to rebel from the puppet masters who were controlling them, and hence they were assassinated. That's the short of it. Okay, this book is dedicated to the truth, seekers of truth, and to those who, regardless of risk, labor tirelessly to tell it. This book was published in 96-97. This is to the reader. This is Leonard Horowitz. This book is painfully nonfiction. The story is true. The characters, scientific and political, are real. Secondary references have been checked and authenticated. Since the importance of this information was clear, I labored to write it for both critical health science and intelligent lay readers without losing either. Technical words are explained in lay terms for all to better understand. Though many people, black, white, gay, straight, Jew, Gentile, may wish to deny the implications of this work, the truth is the truth. As the British statesman Edmund Burke said in the wake of the American Revolution, people never give up their liberties, but under some delusion. I'm telling you right now, the whole world is beguiled, is under a delusion. And it's costing the government a lot of money to give food stamps and aid to 50 million people in the USA. And I believe they do have a plan to just nip that in the bud, cut it off, and cause riots and chaos whenever they get ready to pull the trigger. Perhaps now, as aid consumes the lives, liberties, and pursuits of an estimated 30 million HIV-positive people worldwide, the time has come to vanquish our delusions about it and its origin. Despite its social and scientific importance, the origin of HIV has been clouded in mystery. Based on the mass of circumstantial and scientific evidence presented herein, the theory that emerging viruses like HIV and Ebola spontaneously evolved and naturally jumped species from monkey to man must be seriously questioned. There is an old saying in medicine that diagnosis is required before treatment. Facts presented here, easily verified, may help diagnose the man-made origin of the world's most feared and deadly virus. It is hoped that this work will, therefore, help redirect AIDS science in search of a cure, free AIDS victims from the guilt and stigma attached to the disease, as well as prevent such emerging viruses from re-emerging. I often offer this investigation into the origin of AIDS and Ebola for critical review in the hope that it may contribute to greater honesty in science, to political and military intelligence community reforms that are truly peace-loving to the self, and social reflection as a preventative against inhumanity. Leonard Horowitz. I'm going to take a break. Well, there's no way I can go through the whole scientific details of this book, but I will read a little more and give you my synopsis from my memory, and that should be enough to give you the gist of what's in this book. Besides the fact, if you'll take notes on this, you can replay it, but Dr. Robert Gallo, Gallo, of the National Cancer Institute, during his introductory speech before a meeting on human T-cell leukemia viruses at the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory in New York. What Dr. Robert Gallo detailed was his opinion of the possible origin of AIDS. Now, if you read this book and you saw the documents, the contracts, the letters, Dr. Horowitz was very detailed with his evidence of showing contracts from the government when Nixon was president and Kissinger was in charge of a lot of the world's affairs, which he still is. These people are, as we saw the pictures I showed you, Nixon and all these people at the Bohemian Grove, where they throw a child into the fire. The Illuminati, the Masonry lodges, all this stuff is connected. I'm trying to show you there was and is an intent. Nefarious intent, an evil intent, a murderous intent. Okay, I'm just going to read you a portion of this. Then suddenly there was, Mamma Mia, I exclaimed. I can't believe he published this. Gallo and Company, including the frequent co-author Robert Ting, T-I-N-G, from Lytton Bionics. He mentions all the bionics or medical laboratories involved in government contracts for creating these biological weapons that Obama is saying he's trying to remove from Assad right now, the chemical weapons. All those things were probably developed and purchased from USA and other countries like Russia or maybe Chinese technologies. The leaders of all these countries are responsible for the disbursement of these terrible, horrible weapons, biological, chemical. Anyways, sorry to go off. Reportedly modifying Simon monkey, S-I-M-I-A-N, monkey, viruses by infusing them with cat leukemia. I've read this whole book now. So page after page, chapter after chapter. I saw how they did it, where they did it, who was involved. And you can go on YouTube and find the Robert Gallo, G-A-L, video done by Leonard Horowitz. And it's a couple-hour video. It's free on YouTube, and it's one of his speeches he did before a group of people. I'm sure there are many. And you will verify all this for yourself. I just want to show you what this book was published. Hasn't been discredited. It's been around for 20 years. And it's telling a horrible story, a true story. So they were modifying Syrian monkey viruses and fusing them with cat leukemia, RNA, to make them cause cancers as seen in people with AIDS. What they wanted to do is they didn't want a virus that would show up almost immediately. People would start breaking out with rashes or cancers or bleeding from the lungs or dropping over. Because then, of course, you would quarantine the city, quarantine the area. No. They wanted a virus that wouldn't kick in for 10 years. So by the time that people found out, it would be too late. How sinister is that? Anybody thinks that Satan is just a guy with a bad mood is mistaken. He's a dude with an agenda, and all the people that are into the Satanism, Illuminati, bad side of the Masonic lodges, Zionism, globalism, banksters, making people lose their jobs and their homes and their health. There's nothing nice about any of this. It's murderous. Furthermore, Gallo and his co-workers at I can't even say some of these words, Shitoko Fukuoka, that's a company, concluded from studies conducted in late 1969 or early 1970 that they would need to further evaluate the functional significance of tRNA, specific tumor cell tRNAs that were added directly to normal cells. They explained that one way of doing this was to use viruses to deliver the foreign cancer-producing tRNAs to normal cells. They were studying how to deliver this to people. The viruses that they used for this purpose were simian monkey viruses, SV40, and mouse patroid tumor polymorph viruses. These experiments, I realized, could have easily established the technology for the development of AIDS. So Leonard Horowitz is reading a technical paper by Dr. Gallo, and he's realizing that it's a recipe for making AIDS, what these scientists were doing by mixing different animals, cat, monkey, rat, whatever viruses together to come up with a targeted HIV. Allegedly, the simian virus descent, which similarly delivers reverse transcriptide in a foreign cat leukemia, sarcoma-like RNA to normal human white blood cells. Okay, I'm going to read a little more and then I'll be done. I hope you get the point. Obvious link to NATO. That same year, Gallo and his co-workers presented research describing the experiment entry into bacterial RNA into human WBCs, white blood cells, before a special symposium sponsored by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. This is a military group. The paper published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences discussed the possible mechanisms prompting the entry of foreign nucleic acids into lymphocytes, giving people AIDS. I flashed back to my knowledge of the controversial symposium on the entry and control of foreign nucleic acids held in April 4th and 5th, 1969 at Fort Detrick, another medical lab, and noted Gallo's link to this work. Gallo was there involved in these nefarious biological weapons then. He was involved all along, and he admitted so in some of his confrontations when he was giving speeches. I flash back to my knowledge of the controversial symposium of the entry and control of foreign nucleic acids. I just read that. Here was documented evidence that senior investigator Robert Gallo presented the methods and materials used to produce AIDS-like viruses before NATO military scientists at a NATO International Symposium or uptake on informative molecules of living cells. I was stunned while reading that Gallo and his co-workers had also published studies identifying the mechanisms responsible for reduced amino acid and proteins synthesis by T lymphocytes required for immune system failure. Required for immune system failure. These people were making these AIDS viruses to use them. The specific enzymes required to produce such effects, along with the base pair switch mutation in the genes of the WBCs, white blood cells, to produce the small DNA changes needed to create extreme immune system failure. And 3, the method by which human WBC white blood cells DNA degradation and immune system decay may be prompted by the pooling of nucleic acids, purine bases, and the addition of specific chemical reagents. The subsequent study, published in 1970 by Gallo and his colleagues, identified RNA-dependent DNA polymers. Gallo's team noted that this enzyme was responsible for gene amplification and biochemical differentiation, the development of unique WBC characteristics, including cancer cell production. Okay, and they got pictures here of how they did it. This was a scientific endeavor to create the AIDS viruses and many others, I'm sure. And there were, from reading the whole book, which I encourage you if you got the energy to do it, but you can go on YouTube, Leonard Horowitz. You can see some of his videos. You probably can buy some of his videos from him. I have one of his videos. I've watched it. You can read about when he talks about Robert Gallo. You can get the book. I read the book. I'm here to tell you. It's a technical book. It names names and names the companies and Baxter's and Dietrich and the do military contracts. And has copies of the contracts in here. Cities where there were spikes in AIDS, New York, San Francisco. There's documentation in here that those were test cities. They actually infected a few people intentionally at blood banks. And they have spikes just in that city where they did the test. It is a scientific effort to have this biological weapon. And after we read about that other book that I read to you about Rockefeller, Eustace Mullins' book we talked about, and takeover of the medical field and getting rid of homeopathic and forcing allopathic on us. And then after the time went by, then the pharmacies and the pharmaceutical companies became the big boom, and now Rockefeller owns all the homeopathic. So he took it away, got control of it, and then he gave it back. How nefarious is that? Alright, I'm not trying to bore you, I'm just trying to make a point. This is 69 stuff. We've got to pay attention to the dates. The Rockefeller did the medical institution and homeopathic, calling the doctors quacks and getting them disbarred, and took over the medical schools back in the 20s and 30s. Albert Pike in 1880, 1870 wrote the book Morals and Dogma, describing the 3 world wars, all this chaos, economic destruction, so that they could get this new world order, this Luciferian concept without God. I'm going to add a little more to this video, and we'll go from there. Thank you for bearing with my emotions on this issue. It just ticks me off. Alright, let's switch topics. I mentioned Tim Rifat on several of my videos because I feel remote viewing is very important. So I thought I'll just read a little bit here to give you a gist of the situation. Remote viewing is a secret ops program by the government where they put people in chairs like airplane cockpit chairs, and they put them in a trance, hypnotism or self-hypnotism or drugs, and then they give them instructions like Edgar Cayce when he was in his trance, and these people leave their body and they go remote view. Tim Rifat wrote a book. He exposed it. Here's what he has to say on page 118. I have found that the above useful in enabling the only non-CIA or DIA expert in the field to give the public the real facts about remote viewing, while MI5 tries every dirty trick in the book to shut me up. Okay, the RS operators should be aware of the following memes or basic principles of business warfare. Train like you plan to fight. When in doubt, use industrial strength deterrence. Priorities are man-made, not God-made. If it is stupid but works, it is not stupid. Always honor a threat. Know when it is time to get the hell out of the battle. The important things are always simple. If you're up to your eyeballs in enemies, you are in combat. In constructing your battle plan, you should be aware of the following points. As by using DA, you simulate the battlefield, battle, and goals you wish to achieve in your mental cinema screen. A good plan will take all of your goals into account, like the physical basis of reality. So this particular thing he's talking about is he developed the ability to go into wherever he was sent, maybe by the CIA, MI5, and suppose he was supposed to spy on the Russians or a big chemical company or even a nuclear site. He could actually, as we read in some other materials, he could envelope his aura, his spirit, over a person and actually take over that person and see what they were seeing and think what they were thinking. That's just a tidbit. I'm going to look up some more stuff here and read it to you. But it's just too bizarre to believe. Remote viewing. Tim Rifat. And go on the internet. There's plenty of videos where he has done talk shows on some of the alternate news programs and internet sites and radio programs. And you can listen to him talk. Fascinating. The science of this New World Order. All right, I'm going to read a little bit more from this to make that last episode there make sense. Psychic applications. Microclimates of opportunity. The organization in a changing world. Come what may, every organization must satisfy the desires of its customers or clients. People must continue to want the organization's products and purchase them in the future. Strategic planning should be geared above all to this end. Planning ahead is, however, bedeviled by inseparable problems. The world is changing so quickly that normal forecasting has become impossible. There are too many improbables, and the relation between causes and effects is poorly understood. Nowhere can this be seen more clearly than in the world of business. Economics is looked upon as a science, but economists readily admit that their discipline is in a stage comparable to that of the science before Newton. Its assertions are effectively untested since they are based on information of poor quality, which is difficult to evaluate in global and national economics. No one knows what the symptoms or what are the causes. Remote viewing, on the other hand, was developed by the military to enable PSI warfare operators to look into the future. It therefore enables the PSI ops capable company to accurately map the probable of future events. You think I'm making it up about remote viewing? For a fuller account of the history and uses of remote viewing, please consult my previous book, Remote Viewing. This is remote viewing and sensing for managers. This is for a manager who wants to have a team of remote viewings in his company. So they are using this high-tech technology of remote viewing. So people tell me, oh, Rick, this is 2013. There's no such thing as God. There's no devil. But hey, we got people who can go in a trance, leave their body, and spy on another company or another country. Something doesn't add up. If you can leave your body and go or move around and come back and report or take control of somebody else's physical body, I suspect you have a spirit or a soul. Hey, it's just me. What do you think? Alright, another book. Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. I read this book a couple years ago. You can see all the tabs, all my notes. Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. So what do we have? In Leonard Horowitz's book, we got the scientists using the taxpayer's dollar to work on vaccines and biological weapons and spread it among us and use it to kill people. We have remote viewing with Tim Reifat, and we've got psychic discoveries behind this. Was written about 1970. Two women working as a team went to a lot of places in Russia where they were doing this very intensely. Sheila Ostrander and Lynn Schroeder. Sheila Ostrander and Lynn Schroeder. You can look this up. You can get one of these books at a used book site for a couple bucks. But I just thought again, I'm not going to try to teach you this stuff. I'm just going to read you a paragraph, tell you what the book I read, so when I do speak and have an opinion, you'll know where I got it from and what the heck I'm talking about. Because this stuff will match up with other issues we're talking about, and we have talked about. Psychics are said to be able to work their wonders. This is page 221 of this book. In case anybody checks me out, tries to debunk me, I'm reading from the book. On other than living things. A short while ago, Dr. Jacques Errera, E-R-R-E-R-A, counselor of nuclear matters to the Belgian government, look at the people involved in this stuff, became involved in the work with a healer who held his hands over a piece of fresh meat. This treatment by the healer seemed to preserve the meat. It did not decay or deteriorate for a month, though it was not refrigerated. Some sort of X energy was involved. Could it be the same energy that Carlin's photographed streaming from the hands of Colonel Kartoffi? And if you've ever seen Carlin photography, I'm sure in one of our books we'll go through that. But basically, if you take this special type of electron microscope and you take a leaf off of a tree and you snip off a quarter of the leaf and you photograph the leaf, you'll get a photograph of the electrical energy of the whole leaf. So even the leaf has an aura, an essence that makes up the shape of the leaf, like humans have auras. Anyways, I could get into this book. I'll just give you a couple of the things in the front here as the topics. Like I said, I can't teach you all this. I can show you some of the stuff I read. Here we go. Mind link, body link, political smoke screens and parapsychology, inner and outer space. Have the Soviets found the secret of mind over matter? The telepathic knockout. And I've read many of this stuff, and yes, they can knock somebody out, take over them, induce a heart attack. God, I don't even want to think about what they can do with HAARP, H-A-A-R-P, which we will discuss a book on that. I got the book. I read the book. Anyways, fascinating stuff. Now, 10 years I've been reading this stuff. Bulgaria, Mission Control Center of the Mind, Czechoslovakia, the psychic life, psychotronics, reincarnation research. These scientists, these programs, no wonder they have cameras on every street in the USA. No wonder they're buying bullets. No wonder they're getting ready to enslave humanity. They don't want people to find out about this stuff. Astrological birth control, pyramid power and the riddle of razor blades, psychic machines, image energy potential, an ESP or a weapon of war. The religious implications of Soviet parapsychology. America versus Russia, a psychic comparison. A Soviet witch predicts. Eyeless sight, remote viewing. Artificial reincarnation. Huh. From animals to cybernetics. So anyways, I made my point. The topic is out there, the research is out there. Citizens from all countries' tax dollars are being spent on the research. 1970 the book was written. The other one here was written 2003. So, 50 years these people have been into this stuff. That's the point I'm trying to show you with these books. Weather warfare. The military's plan to draft Mother Nature. I told you they're using, this is by Jerry Smith. I emailed this guy. I think I have a signed copy of his book here. I ordered it from him. This is probably, I read this 5 or 6 years ago. Let's see, when was this published? (2006). I started my research back in 2005 when I came back from Costa Rica, when people sitting there at the tiki bar on the beach told me about the things going on in the USA, including sky spraying, which I'll show you something. Got a little package here. Remember, this is all educational stuff here we're talking about, so people wake up. But anyways, I'm sitting in Costa Rica at a tiki bar, watching the pretty girls go by on the beach, the Pacific Ocean, Hotel Cocal, that's where I was. And they started telling me that here in the United States they had something going on called sky spraying. I thought they were all wackos. I came back to Florida, took some pictures. Guess they weren't wackos after all. And some of these pictures, it's too clear. See, you can see the straight lines. So this weather warfare we just saw with Jerry Smith, the book I got with he signed. Look how one side of the sky is white and the other one a little bluer. That's powder. That's not a cloud. Ever seen a straight cloud? This is my beach house over by the beach. So my point being is we're being sky sprayed. I took these pictures. Good. 2006. I dug these out of a box. On the internet, I have about 200 videos under the thing Sky Spraying Miracle. Like it's a miracle. I started actually teaching myself, like I'm doing right now with this video, of taking my camera and doing videos of the sky and mixing them together. It's all been a painful lesson. I had to teach myself all this stuff to how to make the videos. And I talk, I narrate while I'm videoing. I wasn't in any of those 200 videos. Only in this series here, Masonry and Satanism, that I actually venture to be putting my face out there. I just think that it's very important that I share all these books I read. Is all the use of all this knowledge if I don't share it? And I didn't want to try to make videos and just tell people things. Because who am I? But the authors of the books. Here's another book I read. Noah's Flood. Super research here. This is a guy who researched the whole world over, all the different cultures, different countries, And I've read a lot of books from South America to the United States, the old Indian, the Hopis. We'll go over that book. But in all the countries all over the world, they have stories of the flood. There was a worldwide chaos, flood, earthquakes, trauma. The Hopis have it that some kind of foreign entity, alien, whatever you want to call it, guided them into underground caves. And the same thing in Ecuador. If you go online, we'll go over that book. They had gigantic caves made in Ecuador. I'll have to go over that book next. That are glass walled. They're cut out rooms inside, storage centers. From the top of the Andes Mountains all the way down to the Pacific coast, like a drainage system. But also including storage rooms with food and sleeping quarters. And apparently those people were assisted during the chaos that ensued 4,000 years ago, whatever. And same thing overseas. And so anyways, it's just another book I read that's out there. That ties the science, the mythology, and I'm an amateur geologist. That means I go to the mountains a lot, and I examine the rocks and the structure. And I can tell you, I have photographed and viewed that a lot of mountains are turned upside down. And a lot of people know that. They'll see the rocks and they're angled like this. So apparently when they had the upheaval, the Earth's crust did one of these numbers. And that's how you form the mountain. And you'll see the rock is that, of course, when there was sediment and it settled and hardened, it was this way. It wouldn't settle and hard this way. Of course, gravity wouldn't let it do that. It would do this. But when they had the chaos, pole shift, whatever, a big asteroid, whatever, it did this. And when you drive from Charleston, North Carolina to Asheville, North Carolina, where I spend a lot of time, you'll see the land slowly, the hills go bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger till you get to the Smoky Mountains. So whatever hit in Charleston, and this is on the internet, you can check it out. And a lot of geologists write books about this, and asteroid debris. But apparently some huge asteroid or something hit around Charleston and shattered the whole Earth right up to the Smoky Mountains. So I'm just saying, just interesting things to learn. And then we know the scientists are doing remote viewing, looking into the future. Can they look into the past? From my research, they can. They're messing with the medicine, the economics of the country. They're trying to take God and Jesus out of schools. We read a little bit about Edgar Cayce and Jesus, reincarnations. And I'm not saying that's true or not. I'm saying he wrote a book. What I'm trying to do with these videos, as I keep repeating myself, is just to share with you, to open your mind. What if? Could it be? And what are they trying to tell us and mind control us and prevent us from knowing? Why are they buying guns? Why are they having cameras everywhere? Why are they trying to take our guns? What's going on? That's the purpose of this series, Masonry and Satanism, which, as I said before, should be Masonry, Satanism, Illuminati, Zionism, globalism, banksters, crooks. Trying to take over the world and force the New World Order control on us. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be a slave. The craziness continues. Clouds of secrecy. The armies. Germ warfare test over populated areas. By Leonard Cole. I thought it was strange that Leonard Horowitz wrote the ones on AIDS and Ebola. Well, again, I'm not trying to read you a book. I'm trying to show you a book, and I'll read you a paragraph. This should give you the gist of the book. Go to a used book site. abooks.com. Nothing to do with me. There's other used book sites, $2 or $3. And get this in the mail, including shipping probably. That's amazing. Books. Shipping's like $0 or $2 on a $2 book. Page 65. Miscellaneous Publication 25. The New York City Subway Test. Clouds of Secrecy. The Army's germ warfare test over populated areas. I could just read that a few times to scare you. Between the time of the spraying of Minneapolis and St. Louis in the early 1950s, do people get it how long this New World Order stuff's been going on? World War II ended in 1946, didn't it? Why are they spraying chemicals and testing and developing these weapons in 1950? Anyways, the spraying in Minneapolis and St. Louis in as early as 1950s, and New York City subway system in 1966. Scores of tests in other populated areas have taken place, as the Army acknowledged in its 1977 report to Congress. See, the leaders that I keep talking about, that come up through the Masonic lodges, that get to be our senators and our representatives and our presidents, and all their henchmen, which a lot of them are Israeli dual citizens or Zionists. This whole government has to be tightly controlled for them to keep this stuff a secret. The Illuminati, the Masonic lodges, where Albert Pike said anybody under 30 degrees, so it doesn't matter your first degree, 20 degree, 18 degrees, there's 33 total degrees in Masonry, but anybody under 30 is not to be allowed to know the Luciferian New World Order plan. Few details are known about the other tests, but the report on the New York City subway system test confirms that the values behind the testing program had not changed during the years. The Army's attack on the New York City in 1966 exposed more than 1 million people to bacteria called Bacillus subtilis variant Niger, Niger. The report of the test, entitled A Study on the Vulnerability of the Subway Passengers in New York City to Covert Attack with Biological Agents. So they were studying how to do it. The cover was, of course, it was a study to check on the vulnerability. Well, now they know the vulnerability, and now they have made the AIDS vaccines and viruses and all that. Reviews a 5-year period from June 6th through the 10th when trillions of germs were released into the subway system during peak travel hours. So you could have been, I was in New York City at the time. Yeah, I think I was there from 73 to 77, visiting my father. The study of the vulnerability of a segment of the subway system, this is page 66, to covert attack was undertaken to provide information on agent distribution and concentration in order to assess threat of infection of subway passengers. Ease of agent dissemination in the system, so they wanted to study how to disperse it in the system, and methods of delivery that could be useful offensively. The subway lines in Midtown New York was selected for investigation because of the heavy traffic and numbers of lines available for testing. What the heck do these people have the right? This is a whole book here. Look at my tabs that I read this. I read this several years ago. Can you imagine me over the last 10 years discovering this stuff? And I could hardly tell it to anybody. I just had to move on to the next book. And how I got all these books is rather interesting, in the same way that you should probably get books, is when you're reading a book, whenever an author makes a claim to something, they put a little tiny one there. See the one where my finger is? That's called a citation. And in the back of the book, I'm sure I don't have to explain this to most people, they have an index place where the citations identify what book the author got, like the notes here. Here we go. But most people know that. That's what a citation is. So when I'm reading a book, I was obviously, I'm not somebody just to trust somebody. I would read the citation, go back and see what book that author referenced, or documents, or government documents, wherever. And then I would go get that material. That was an intense investigation for almost 10 years that I have been doing. And we've just done a few books, and I'm just giving you a paragraph and telling you what it's about. He documents all that testing on the USA citizens, 188 pages. Members of the Atomic Energy Commission secretly decided, I just randomly opened these up, by the way, in the 50s that the public would have to learn to live with radioactive fallout from atomic tests, even though the public had no idea it was being exposed. Similarly, when 6,300 sheep suddenly died in 1968 following a chemical warfare test at a nearby proving ground in Utah, Pentagon spokesman denied responsibility, page 7. And by the way, I have to repeat that. When I'm doing these reviews, I just randomly flip to one of my tabs, and I don't go looking very hard. I just look at the tab where I left it. So I got a whole book like Horowitz is 500 pages, and I just went somewhere in the middle and found one page, and I told you a little bit about the book. I read the books, as you can see by the tabs. Anyways, Clouds of Secrecy, Leonard Cole. More evidence. How much evidence do I have to keep on doing with these videos? Obviously, I'm going to continue until I do my 25 of 25. This video will be 17 of 25. And I promised you that these videos would get more intense as we move on. I'm just trying to make my point. There is some nefarious activities going on, and they're using the TV programming, the media, the press releases, the cameras, the legislation, the false flags. I think Boston bombing was an obvious false flag. There's plenty of videos on YouTube. Too much weird stuff. They were having a test, a war games or a fake bombing right at the same time of the real bombing. The same thing with Sandy Hook School. At another school, they were having a fake shooting while the real shooting. 911, they were having fake planes fly in the buildings. In the train system in London, they were having fake terrorist attack when the real terrorist attack. They always seem to have the fake attacks going on when they're doing the real attacks. I guess it's some kind of cover. Why? 200 years? 300 years since 1776 before? Why? What? Why? That's why I'm doing the videos. I think you'll come to your own conclusion. Why are they sky spraying us? Why lately, in the last 6 months, when I videotape, which on my videos, Rick Miracle, sky spraying, and you see me talk about it, I video and I narrate, a lot of times there's ripples in the powder being sprayed. Clear like a zebra skin. And obviously the heavy metals, the only thing that would cause that would be electromagnetic radiation. Plus, positive poles and negative poles in a wave, a radio wave. So we are being microwaved while we're being sprayed now. And we looked into the issue of the auras, and they changed colors with our mood, and those are frequencies. So if we emanate a frequency of a mood, can they radiate one back into us and induce the mood, which in this material, like in Rifat's book, Remote Viewing, they said they can, and they do. The world is not what people think. Now you see why I'm in such a fevered attempt to do these book reviews and get them out, because I need to share this information. Because if people don't wake up, how's it going to wind up? We all know about history. We know about Rome. We know about World War II and World War I, Russian Revolution, and Genghis Khan from Mongolia, China being overthrown. This stuff happens in history. Is it about to happen again? That's my point of these videos. I want people to know what I have learned, and I'm sure I don't have it all correct. All these authors, are they telling the truth? Are they honest? I will say this. I don't think they're all lying. So even if one of them is telling the truth, that's a bit too much for me. Is Leonard Horowitz telling the truth or lying? Tim Rifat on remote viewing telling the truth or lying? Leonard Cole telling the truth or lying? The book on Noah's flood, where this writer, Norman Kahn, writes about all over the world the scientific evidence, the religious evidence. Was there a Great World War back then? Did a comet come through? What do the people of the government know that we don't know? Are they building mass underground cities? Do they plan on going underground if there's a big problem or a nuclear war? World War III that Albert Pike said they were going to have? Hey, I'm just asking the questions. Call me crazy, but I don't want to just sit around and wait until something happens. I like to be a little proactive about it and investigate. You? Do you care? And again, if you're watching my videos this far, consider yourself brave. Because it's a little bit out there. I agree. Anyways, Rick Miracle reporting. God bless, and thank you for watching my videos.